notice are disabled and cameras as well. But please feel free at any time if you have any pressing issue or comment or question to raise your hand, and then our moderators will unmute you and then you can ask. Or alternatively, um, alternatively, you can post your questions in the chat. I'm going to hand it over to Laune, who will be giving us our opening remarks. Thank you. Laune, are you able to give the opening remarks?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Apologies for that. It was me not being able to find the unmute button. I think it's only fair because Danny already did, maybe to just turn on my video just momentarily. Good morning, everybody. Uh, but I'm just gonna have to turn it off again because I think it seems the network is a bit unstable. But just to start us off, I'd like just maybe just to start off by greeting everybody, distinguished guests, partners, representatives from the Ombudsman's office, civil society organizations here present, human rights defenders, activists, community members. Welcome and thank you, all of you, for joining us this morning. I think it is a great privilege, and it is both like a privilege and a necessity that we gather at this moment across the world, and certainly within our region here. We are witnessing a troubling pattern of increasing attacks on human rights, shrinking civil space, and a rise in violence and harmful rhetoric that is directed at vulnerable and marginalized communities. From hate speech by public figures to discriminatory enforcement of laws to the everyday realities of exclusion and abuse that is faced by LGBTIQ people, indigenous communities, sex workers, migrants, and others, these are not isolated incidents. They are part of a broader climate that demands a stronger and coordinated response. In these times, I think it is important that we understand that it is not enough simply to affirm our rights, but we must actively protect them. And protecting human rights requires systems. It requires accessible, trusted, and effective mechanisms that through which people can report violations, they can seek redress, and they can hold perpetrators accountable. This is why platforms such as the National Human Rights Institutions, which include the Ombudsman for us, are so critical. These are not just abstract bodies, they are not, but they are practical tools for justice. They exist to receive complaints, to investigate violations, and to ensure that the rights of all people, especially those who are most at risk, are upheld. Yet, as we know, these mechanisms often remain underutilized, not because they are irrelevant, but because communities may not always know or have the information, the confidence, or the support that they need to access them. So a webinar such as today's is both timely and essential. It is about bridging the gap, equipping civil society, human rights defenders, and communities with the knowledge and practical skill to engage these accountability mechanisms effectively and safely. Here at Le Habiba, we see this as central to our work, uh, strengthening reporting and documentation. It is not just about data. It is about visibility. It is about protection. It is about justice. And when violations go undocumented, they remain invisible. When they are invisible, they're easily denied. So to address this, we have been working to strengthen our own systems for documentation of human rights violations. And I'm pleased to share today that we have recently launched Mukhosi, which is our new reporting platform, which is available right now on the Le Habiba website for beta testing. And we welcome you to give it a try. Mokhosi is a new reporting platform which is now available on our website for beta testing and will be available, I think, as soon as tomorrow on WhatsApp as well. And Mukhosi is designed to make it easier and safer and more accessible for individuals and communities to report violations, while also strengthening our ability to track patterns, respond effectively, and support pathways to accountability, which includes engagement with institutions such as the Ombudsman. So we see tools like Mukhosi and engagement such as today's as critical and complementary, actually. They work together to ensure that reporting does not end in documentation, but it opens the pathway to action. As we proceed today, I encourage all of us participants here to engage actively, to ask questions, and to think about how we can collectively strengthen referral pathways, how we can protect survivors, how we can ensure that no violation goes unanswered. Let me close by thanking our partners, particularly SAL and the Ombudsman, as the organizers of this session, and the representatives both from the Ombudsman's office for their commitment and collaboration. This is exactly the kind of partnership that we need to respond to the challenges that lie before us as human rights defenders everywhere. I wish us all a very productive and empowering session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lorna. That was so profound. Um, and I'm so excited about the initiative Mokhosi. I was just responding to someone in the chat that it's such a fitting name, word as well that will be relatable to a lot of people. Without further ado, I will invite Anna or Bradley, I think Anna, to come and introduce our esteemed guest, but also why to tell us why we are all here. Over to you, Anna. I'm told it's Bradley. So Bradley, you can take the stage.
I was hoping you wouldn't call me because I thought Lani did an amazing job with his welcoming remarks. Let me just try put on my camera. Sorry, folks, the lighting here is a bit dark. Sorry, the lighting here is a bit dark, but I hope everyone can see me. Good morning, everyone, and good morning to all the participants who took time out this morning to come and join us in this webinar. A special thank you to the Office of the Ombudsman, to Lahabibo, and to Black Queer Dogs for collaborating and agreeing to be part of this initiative. Um, well, as I said, Laune did pretty much mention what we were going to say also, but just to add on to say that since about 2, 3 years ago, SALC has ventured into a campaign that we were implementing to address hate speech and to use laws that existing pieces of laws in our legislation that we have to address hate speech and hate crimes in our various countries. Um, and what we have found out also is a lot of countries in the region in Southern Africa do not have specific hate laws or hate crimes that we can use, especially those that are linked to LGBTIQ people, to sex workers, to migrants, and so forth. But there are other pieces of legislation that we can use. And we have done previous webinars discussing this. So if you are interested in just touching up on that, please go to the SALC pages. We do have the specific country webinars that are there and information. So Botswana's information is also there. Yeah, so this also is a continuation, and this is based on feedback that we also got from participants previously. And part of what folks also wanted to know was how do we actually get in touch with human rights mechanisms in our countries? And this also involves So our Human Rights Institute in some countries, or Office of the Ombudsman, as in Botswana. And our colleagues at the Office of the Ombuds were very kind and gracious enough to jump on board, no questions asked, and to say, no, we would like to collaborate and participate. So the intention of this webinar really is to engage with the Office of the Ombuds, to find out how we can file cases of human rights violations, any form of human rights violation that we may experience as individuals, as organizations, as communities, regardless of our identities, right? How do we engage? How do we file cases with the Office of the Ombuds? And this this webinar really is just to take us through a step-by-step understanding what the Office of the Ombud is about, how do we engage with them, and also beyond the Office of the Ombuds, how do we also engage with our partnering organizations, be it Black Queer Dogs, the Habibo, or any other human rights organization in Botswana. So without wasting further time, I will introduce Ms. Tekanyo from the Office of the Ombuds to take us through this. So we'll have about 30, 40 minutes of presentation from Mr. Ganyo. And then we'll also have a segment where we will have a Q&A. So if you do have questions, comments, if you feel like you might forget them, please put them in the chat box, and we will address them. And also, if you have questions later on and you feel like speaking, please just raise your hand and our colleagues also will unmute you. So please do feel free to engage, ask questions. There's no questions that is not worth asking. So otherwise, I'm handing it over to Me Tekanyo.
Thank you so much, Bradley. Good morning again, colleagues. I am Tekanyo Ohotseng from the Office of the Ombudsman. Let me just try to start the video so that you can see me. Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you and we can see you also.
Okay. There's a lot of light coming from this side, so I'm just going to stop the video. I believe that you have seen me. I can continue to speak because I want to project my my presentation. Going to try to share the screen. Can you still hear me? And can you see my slide?
Yes, we can hear you, see your presentation. If you can make it full screen, but besides that, we can also see the presentation, yes.
Is that okay?
Perfect, yes.
Yeah. As I said, my name's Tekanyo Ohotseng. I am a principal legal investigator here in the Office of the Ombudsman, Francis Mohaboroni. thank you so much for inviting our office to discuss, to hold a discussion on filing complaints with the Office of the Ombudsman. We are grateful that you found it fit to invite us, because we are mandated as the Office of the Ombudsman to collaborate with CSOs and NGOs in our quest to ensure the protection of human rights. So it is very much fitting that we are having this discussion today as a way to start our much more needed collaboration. Today, I'm going to start by just sharing on generally the mandate of the Office of the Ombudsman before I delve into how you can file complaints with the Office of the Ombudsman as CSOs and NGOs. The Office of the Ombudsman was established, it's a creature of statute. It was established by an act of parliament as far as 2000, no, in 1995. Sorry, in 2005. However, we only started in 2007. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I can't see, and I think I'm having a little bit of trouble here. Yes, we operate through the Ombudsman Act, which was amended in 2023. It is called the Ombudsman Act of 2021, which commenced in July 2023. This is the new act that conferred the human rights mandate upon the Office of the Ombudsman. Section 10, 1B of the Office of the Ombudsman speaks to the conference of the human rights mandate upon the Office of the Ombudsman, which was initially established just to address administrative injustice occasioned by government departments, ministries, departments, as well as agencies. Now we are mandated to ensure that the government of Botswana, also above only looking into maladministration, also considers issues of human rights violations. And when we are dealing with issues of human rights violation, the mandate has been extended to cover violations by government as well as private entities. Now, if you may wonder who the Ombudsman is, the Ombudsman is an officer who is appointed by the President after consultation with the leader of opposition in the National Assembly and the Speaker of the National Assembly. And for one to be an ombudsman, the person shall be qualified to be appointed to the office because the office of the Ombudsman is given the same powers as the High Court. We will discuss this, we will refer to it in our discussion today as well. The Section 8 provides that a person holding the office of the Ombudsman shall vacate that office at the expiration of 5 years from the date of his or her appointment, and that person will be eligible for reappointment for only one further term of 5 years. So one can act as an ombudsman for an extent of 10 years or only 5 years. They are removed from the office only the same way that the judges of the High Court are removed from office. Our ombudsman currently is Advocate Stephen Basi Tiroyakosi, who is serving his 5th year in office this year. Now, the office of the Ombudsman, like I already mentioned, is mandated to deal with issues of maladministration. The Ombudsman may undertake investigation where there has been a report indicating that there has been maladministration by Department of Government, or there has been a violation of human rights to one person or the other. Where there has been that report, or the ombudsman does not have to always wait for a report, because by his or her own motion, where he or she considers it necessary to investigate on the ground that a person has or may have sustained violation of his or her human rights in consequence of the action so taken. So sometimes we find that there is a case, for example, through social media, we learn that there is a certain trend that touches on violation of human rights. We don't have to, under such circumstances, wait for a report. The ombudsman can make a case and by his own motion, find that they have to undertake an investigation on that particular matter. Section 11 of the Ombudsman Act provides that in the discharge of his or her functions under this Act, the Ombudsman shall not be subject to the direction or control of any other person or authority, and the proceedings of the Ombudsman shall not be called into question in any court of law. This section speaks to the Ombudsman's independence. We carry out our duties without fear or favor. We are not subjected to any control. The extent of our investigations are determined by ourselves. And every action that we take cannot be questioned in any court of law. So a case that comes to the Ombudsman ends here at the Ombudsman with the recommendations of that will be made by the Ombudsman. You may want to know what really is maladministration. Because at times you will find that although it doesn't really qualify as human rights violation, it can qualify as maladministration. Maladministration is broad. It does not have just one definition, for a fear of maybe limiting cases of maladministration. So when we define maladministration, we usually use examples of what may occur under such cases. Where there are issues such as bias, that is where in an office you will find that a certain person is biased on the basis of color, maybe you like or you make favorable cases, decisions towards someone who is lighter in complexion because they appear fairer to you, or maybe darker in complexion because you happen to just like color, or a bias towards gender, where women or men are given salaries higher than, in negotiation, they are given salaries higher than women. That is biased towards gender. Or in religion cases, where, you tend to give leave, or, like as we are going to our holidays, upcoming holidays, which are Christian in nature, you might find that we don't really recognize people who observe other religions, but we give a certain observation to other religions and not maybe to, I don't know, or for Islam, there are days you don't find them in the color, in the calendar, and so on and so forth. Neglect of duty. You are expected to do something, but you neglect. Inattention is also another example. Incompetence and ineptitude is an example of cases that we take where you have shown utter incompetence in what you would have rather been expected to be competent on as an officer within government sector. Adversity, arbitrariness, rudeness, disregarding complainants' rights, refusal to answer reasonable questions, neglecting to inform a complainant on request of his or her rights or entitlement. You are mandated as an officer to inform every person who comes to your office of their rights and of their entitlement. Neglect or failure to do so is tantamount to maladministration. Some can knowingly give advice which is misleading or inadequate. That also is maladministration. Ignoring valid advice, some people can come and give you very valid advice on something that you maybe neglected, and you just ignore it and pursue other forms of action, which will lead to a violation of human rights or delays in assisting or giving assistance to that particular person. Some is offering no redress or disproportionate redress. Omission to notify those against whom action is taken of their right to appeal, resulting in their loss of their appeal. This is another example. Offering no redress. For example, you go to the police to report your case and you are not assisted. That counts as maladministration. That also use of faulty procedures. That also is maladministration. In terms of the Ombudsman Act, the human rights are under the Section 2 of the Act. And in terms of that section, a human right means a fundamental right or freedom provided for in the Constitution of the Republic of Botswana, that is under Section 3 to 15 of the Constitution. The Constitution, therefore, is a very vital instrument in our practice of protection of human rights. A state will violate human rights if it fails to take steps to promote and advance them. Human rights violation is any action or inaction which deprives the person served of any of his or her legal rights as articulated in the Constitution. Now, in terms of Section 12(1) of the Ombudsman Act, the Ombudsman determines the nature and extent of investigations. We do not have rules as the High Court does. We do not have to always be strict in the way we do our investigations. Sometimes you might find that this is an issue that might just be quick to resolve. We can do it telephonically. We can just go to the site. We determine the nature and extent of our investigations. There are no rules really. Whatever we can do to ensure that there is full redress of a matter that is reported to us, we undertake that process. We have the power to inspect buildings and premises. We have the power to access documentary evidence and to request particulars and information from any person. Subject to the provisions of any law regulating the privileges or immunities of any person or institution provided for in any law. Where someone raises a privilege, they need to really satisfy, they need to assure us that this is a privilege accorded to us. We cannot share information according to so and so privilege. The Ombudsman has the power to issue subpoenas requiring attendance of any person before the Ombudsman and the production of any document or record relevant to any investigation. Any person who was subpoenaed and fails without reasonable cause to appear shall be guilty of an offense. The Ombudsman also can require any person to disclose truthfully any information within their knowledge that is relevant to any investigation by the Ombudsman. That is where we say they hold the same powers as those of the High Court. In Section 18(1), it provides that in conducting the investigation, the Ombudsman shall observe the rules of natural justice, but shall not be bound by any legal or technical rules of evidence applicable to proceedings before the court. That is what I just referred to before. The proceedings shall be conducted informally, at times we are not so formal, and expeditiously. Our aim is to resolve cases as fast as possible. After considering the nature of the investigation, you determine whether to conduct proceedings in camera or in public. We can hold our proceedings in public where we find that this is an issue of public interest. We are allowed to hold our proceedings in public. Where we find that this is a very sensitive case, such as issues that touch on violation of children or minors, we can hold our proceedings in camera. In conducting the investigation, the Ombudsman may determine whether any person may be represented by a legal practitioner. Because our proceedings are so informal, it is not always necessary for one to be represented by a legal practitioner. They are so informal that sometimes we use even Setswana in our proceedings, what the complainants are comfortable with. Section 21 speaks to the evidence. The I have already spoken to this. We may call witnesses and we may administer oath and examine witnesses abroad, and even call for a production of documents the same way the High Court can. The state shall not be entitled to any privileges in respect of the production of documents or the giving of evidence as is allowed in legal proceedings. Section 13 to 20 of the Ombudsman speaks to the investigation process. The complaint, this now we are speaking to how we take or how you can file complaints with the Office of the Ombudsman. Every day, our offices are open for consultation. We receive walk-in clients on a daily. There is an investigator who is on duty to receive complaints from persons walking in. The complaint may be made by an individual or a body of persons, whether corporate or unincorporated. So a group of people can come to the Ombudsman with the same issue and report to the Ombudsman with evidence. There has to be a prima facie case that is made before the Ombudsman can embark on an investigation. We will assess the documents that you come with and also assess it against the laws, human rights principles, and advise accordingly. If we find that you do not have enough evidence, we will advise on what evidence is needed to establish a prima facie case of a violation of human rights or of maladministration. Complaints shall be made in writing and signed by the complainant or orally. That is in the event you are unable to write. When you are in our office, you report orally with your documentary evidence. With that documentary evidence, we will give you a form which you will fill in with all your particulars, indicating who your respondents are, their addresses, their contact details, and why they are respondents in your matter. And then you will give us a summary of how you want the Ombudsman to assist you, a summary of the complaint and what remedy you would like to see from the Ombudsman. Where the complaint is made orally, that is where one is unable to write. The investigator is to reduce it into writing, and the complainant shall append his or her signature to the complaint. That sometimes is thus the fingerprint. If the complainant cannot write, the writing shall be read over before signing, interpreted and explained to the complainant in a language that the complainant understands, and the complainant shall approve the writing by making a thumbprint to such writing. Where the complainant is in custody, we do have complainants who are in prison, and we do also receive complaints from people who are in state custody, that is in hospitals or in any other state custody that one can think of. That complaint shall be forwarded unopened and unaltered to the Ombudsman by the person in charge of the place or institution where the complainant is a patient or in custody. When it gets here, we assess whether or not it has been tampered with. The complaint is to be made by a person who claims to have sustained a violation of their human rights in consequence of any action taken by or on behalf of a department of government or a private entity, being action taken in the exercise of functions of that department or private entity. Complaint may be referred with the consent of the person who made it by a member of the National Assembly, a member of any local authority, a chief, or any organization on behalf of a complainant with a request to conduct an investigation thereon. Where the Ombudsman proposes to conduct an investigation, then he or she shall afford to the principal officer of a department of government or to the private entity who is alleged to have taken or on any allegations made to the an investigation under the section, the Ombudsman may obtain information from such person and in such a manner and make such inquiries as he or she thinks fit, and may determine whether any person may be represented by a legal practitioner. The Ombudsman may take appropriate action to call for the remedying, correction, and reversal of instances through fair, proper, and effective means. So our tools of action, what we do, we mediate, we go through arbitration, we negotiate, reconcile, and compromise between the parties concerned. That is how we cause resolution of complaints forwarded to the Ombudsman. And we may causing the complaint and a finding on it to be reported to the principal officer of any department of government or a private entity, and to a person who is established to have taken or authorized the action in question. Now, the Ombudsman doesn't always take cases. We may refuse to initiate or may discontinue any investigation if it appears to him or her that the complaint is frivolous, vexatious, or is not made in good faith, or that the person aggrieved has no sufficient interest in the subject matter of the complaint, or where making of the complaint has without reasonable cause been delayed for more than 36 months, that is 3 years. So you have to, as soon as you suffer an injustice, cause for the complaint to be lodged at the office of the Ombudsman. Because delay in doing so may result in us refusing to initiate an investigation. This is because it is so difficult to find evidence when you are investigating a matter that is more than 3 years old, or that is even older. After conducting the investigation, the Ombudsman shall send a report of the investigation to the principal officer of the department or to the private entity concerned. Where the Ombudsman is of the opinion that an injustice or unfair treatment has been caused to the person aggrieved in consequence of maladministration or violation of his or her human rights, the Ombudsman shall make such recommendations as he or she thinks fit to remedy the injustice or unfair treatment caused, and may specify time within which the injustice or unfair treatments shall be remedied. So the Ombudsman makes recommendations at the end of an investigation. If there is a failure or refusal to implement the recommendation of the Ombudsman within the specified time, the Ombudsman may, for maladministration proceedings, prepare and submit to the National Assembly a report detailing the failure or refusal to implement its recommendation. So then the ombudsman becomes functus officio, and now the National Assembly has to see to it that the recommendation is that the recommendation is implemented. In human rights proceedings, we may bring an action before a court and seek such a remedy as may be appropriate for enforcement of its recommendations. We don't go to court to argue. This is just for enforcement purposes, to have and to make our recommendations into an order of court or the court order. It is interesting to note that no action shall be brought against the ombudsman or deputy ombudsman or any member of staff of the office of the ombudsman in respect of anything, any act or thing done or omitted to be done in good faith in the exercise of or her duties under this act. So you cannot now go and sue the ombudsman and say, no, he failed to do justice to my case. Besides investigations, the ombudsman also is mandated to advise government on the ratification and implementation of human rights treaties and conventions. It has mandated to promote compliance with national laws that protect and promote the enjoyment of human rights. We are mandated to assist the government to monitor, address, and report on human rights concerns at national and international level. We are mandated to collaborate with civil society organizations, non-governmental organizations, regional and international organizations in promoting human rights, and make recommendations and proposal to competent authorities for the amendment and reform of laws in conformity with Botswana's international human rights obligations. We educate the public on maladministration and human rights by such means as it may determine, including publication, lectures, workshops, and symposia. We have to implement a continuing program of research, education, and information to enhance respect of human rights and to increase awareness and promote a human rights culture. Currently, our activities include we do more campaigns. We engage with accounting officers. We hold policy implementers workshops. We have employee relations unit engagement, full council meetings. We have a section there where we advise the full council on human rights, as well as administrative justice. We hold quarterly meetings as well as radio jingles. All ombudsman services are for free because administrative expenses of the office are paid out from the consolidated funds. That is to say, they are paid out by government. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I have come to the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much, TK. That was very thorough and very, very informative also. Let's just see, Danny, do we have some questions, comments in the chat box or on social media?
Hi, Brad. Firstly, thank you so much, Tikani. That was very thorough, as Bradley mentioned. We do have, well, most of the questions in the chat box are mine, but I would encourage people to start posting questions or raising their hands. But I will start with two that are not from me. One is from Kialebogang Kaile. And they're asking, in a situation where a government department or ministry was written to, either requesting a meeting, inviting them to an event, or requesting use of venue, and they don't respond at all, how can one hold them accountable? And who do you hold accountable because letters are received at the records office, who always claim they only receive mail and pass it to the relevant offices? That is from Kialaboga. And then I've got another question from Mona Lisa, who's asking, how does one file a report from outside areas where the office is established? I.e., is there an email address? So it's a request for an email address. And then I'm gonna read two more, Tikanyo. These are from me. I was maybe mumbling, but let's hear. In a case where there is no trust in those in charge, during your presentation, you mentioned that those in charge of like detention centers or hospitals can relay the complaint to the office. And there was like technical issues like ensuring that the letter hadn't been tampered with. So my question pretty much asks, if there's no trust and the people who want to complain don't trust the people in charge, may they seek assistance from family members or other people around to relay the complaint instead? As we know, in many instances in our region, there is lack of trust in people who are in charge of such centers like prisons and hospitals, because maybe of the issues of that, shining a bad light on the institutions themselves. And then the last one from me is it's like a follow-up. So I was asking where the Ombudsman's office stand on the issue of anonymity. For example, if you see some injustices in, in the community, or maybe a neighbor is abusing the children or the spouse, whatever, can you report this matter and remain anonymous? But that goes for all the other matters. Can you remain anonymous when reporting this? And how does the Office of the Ombudsman ensure that this is realized if anonymity is allowed? And the last one before people start adding more is from Mona Lisa, adding to Daniel's question. Do you work with entities that are supported under the Whistleblowers Act? So I'll give you time to digest those and maybe address those, and then we'll get back to more. I see Laune just posted one. Thank you.
Um, thank you. Thank you so much for those questions. I'll start from the first one. You said this is an issue of non-response by government departments. Non-response is maladministration. If you have proof that you have submitted or you have lodged or you have submitted a letter to any government department and it has not been responded to, you can lodge a complaint with the Office of the Ombud. Government departments should respond per public service standards. They should respond to correspondence within 10 working days. And they should resolve queries within 21 working days. So a non-response thereto is tantamount to maladministration and therefore reportable to the Office of the Ombudsman with evidence that indeed you submitted such a letter. Now, about those who are in areas where they cannot reach the ombudsman, you can write to the office of the ombudsman. It is important to note that we have offices in Gaborone. In Gaborone, we have 2 offices. We have the regional office as well as the head office. We have offices in Francistown. We have offices in Maun, and we have offices in Tsabo. So one can reach any office that is closest to them for convenience purposes. But we don't always have to go to the office. We can also receive complaints in writing. So you have to write to the office of the ombudsman that is closest to you. That is for ease of service. You also asked if those in detention centers may seek assistance from family members. Like I said, we are a creature of statute. It is indicated that in our case that they should be submitted through the officer in charge, particularly those that are in prison. That is so that we hold them accountable where we write to someone and they maybe do not receive their responses. They have to ensure that the person who is within their area or their custody receives a response or communication from the office of the ombudsman, failing which we hold them accountable. Therefore, it is pronounced rather in state prisons. However, I do believe if your family member is, for example, in a hospital and they are unable to reach us, they may write and you can submit the letter on their behalf. They may write and they sign and you submit the letter. You cannot sign for them. They have to sign that letter and you submit it. And we respond likewise. Anonymity, you are asking if a person can report anonymously. It's very important and to note that we receive anonymous complaints. However, the anonymous party, the anonymous person, is anonymous to who the case is against, not anonymous to the ombudsman. That is because if you report a case and we need further and better particulars, we need to know where we can reach you for further and better particulars, or to give you feedback on how we assessed the complaint that was lodged. Also, because you are the same person who knows what is really happening, we will also need to know if, for example, we received that and we took it as an own motion, we will also need to know from you whether our remedial action is working or has been implemented. So for purposes of that, you can report to the ombudsman and indicate that I would like to be anonymous in this matter, but we will know who you are and how to reach you. We have we cannot disclose your details to any other person. The lawyer attorney-client confidentiality, we also subscribe to it. And to that end, your details are protected in our organization. There was another question on whether we work with entities under the Whistleblower Act. I'm not too certain which entities those are, but in every case where there are allegations of maladministration, any person who is affected, or if you can show that you have sufficient interest in that matter, you can report to the Ombudsman. I hope that answers your questions, sir.
Thank you so much, Tekanyo. I do realize the issue of anonymity is a tricky one across the region. But yes,
Yeah.
that answers it. I will go through the questions, but I see, excuse me, Bradley's hand is up. I will go through more questions after Bradley has brought up his question.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Danny. And thanks, TK. Just a quick one, still on the anonymity reporting, right? And not to take away the trust from the office of the ombuds, but slightly kind of playing the devil's advocate. Let's say in a okay, so one, if I go and report a case of violation to the office of the ombuds, right? Um, and I want to remain anonymous. Only the office of the ombuds would have my particular details, no one else, right? What happens in a case where, let's say, maybe for example, like someone within the office of the ombuds has access to my details and maybe compromised or what's the word paid by someone to share my particular details. What happens in a case like that? Yeah.
Randy, it's truly a tricky one. It's truly a tricky
Right.
one because
Yeah.
this sharing of confidential information is rampant across. You find that even, you know, high security information is shared. However, for the office of the ombudsman, we cannot really be, I don't know how to put it. That is a possibility. It is a possibility I cannot deny. However, all officers who work for the office of the ombudsman, they swear to an oath of confidentiality. So they are expected to keep secret of every document that is within, or any information that is within the office, such that if it is found that one shared such information, action is taken against them, serious action, because they have sworn to confidentiality, every single person in this office. So a thorough investigation should be done then to find who it was and take the necessary steps to ensure that action is taken against them. Our act dictates that everyone who works in the office of, not only the investigators, those at records, cleaners, everyone takes the oath of confidence. However, I admit it's a tricky one.
Thank you so much, Tekanyo. I think if we keep revisiting this, we will run out of time. So for the interest of time, I'm going to continue reading because I see there's a few more questions, and then I will give you the time to respond to those again. This one is from Laune. They're asking, how does the Office of the Ombudsman interact with I think it's the same question as above, with the Whistleblowers Act and the DCEC, protecting anonymity and the report's integrity? That's from Laune. Anna is asking, in a situation where a member of parliament makes harmful or hateful submission about a group of people, can someone file a complaint with Ombud? We understand the immunity clause regarding MPs, but can the Ombud intervene somehow? And I think this is a big issue in the entire region. Neo is asking, well, hello, Neo. So I'm curious about situations we currently have in some instances where we, in good faith, believe the officers are not homophobic themselves and therefore handle complaints without bias. But that isn't necessarily the case. How does the Ombudsman's office intend on assisting in that context? Because not all homophobia or discrimination cases, much like other phobias and other discriminatory cases, are easy to prove. Raymond is asking, may we please get a clearer understanding of what private entities mean? Is it when private entities violate human rights only or break laws? Is there a limitation to holding private entities accountable? And then I've got two more questions, if you will allow me. I'm sorry for making you take too many notes. Laune asks again, can the ombuds continue to pursue a case after the complainant has died? And then lastly, Anna is asking again, there are so many domestic violence issues out in the public's eye, and we frequently complain complained of the inaction from the police side. Can CSOs file a broader complaint about police incompetence? Thank you, Tekanyo. You can address those.
Thank you. Let me start with the last one, where there is inaction from the police or by the police in cases where domestic abuse cases are reported. As indicated in my presentation, inaction is maladministration. So where there are cases of where there is inaction, you have to report to the commissioner. You'll be having a list of cases maybe where such has happened, or you have a case. You have to ensure. Sometimes you get there, you report to a junior officers, they subject you to ridicule or any form of inaction. You have to report, to exhaust internal channels of communication. Ensure that you report to the superior officers, either the officer, the station commander, the officer in charge in that place, and where they fail to take action, because the ombudsman is the office of last resort in cases of maladministration. So where they failed to take action, you have to report to their commissioner. And if he fails to take action, then you may report to the office of the ombudsman. But where, sometimes you have reported and they delay, because delay is also a special kind of maladministration, where sometimes you fail to exert, the delay prohibits you from accessing the higher authority. For example, the station commander did not respond, and now you cannot take his response to the commissioner. Then you can, at that point, approach the office of the ombudsman for assistance. You have to ensure that you exhaust internal channels of communication and do so in writing, evidence that you have indeed lodged a complaint and it was not addressed. So to that end, yes, you can report to the office of the ombudsman. Sometimes we do systemic cases where a system is so polluted that whatever you do, it is causing systemic problems. You see that everywhere you go, this problem arises. The ombudsman at times, you can report and we take it early on motion and we address it as such to ensure that we come up with remedial action or recommendations that will be put in place to ensure that such is corrected across board. Homophobic cases, I didn't hear the question properly because you kept cutting there. I think there was a problem with the internet.
My
I would like you to
apologies.
repeat that one.
Yeah,
Yes.
apologies. Can you hear me clearer now? Then I can repeat
Yes,
it.
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry. Yes. Neo asked, so I'm curious about situations we currently have in some instances where we, in good faith, believe the officers are not homophobic themselves and therefore handle complaints without bias, but that isn't necessarily the case. How does the Ombudsman's office intend on assisting in that context? Because not all homophobia or discrimination cases, much like other phobias and other discriminatory cases, are easy to prove. I thank you.
Thank you. That's we haven't come across such a case. You will note that our human rights mandate, we are still in infancy stage as it relates to the human rights mandate. So we have not really come across situations where an officer has shown you know sort of homophobic tendencies or bias. However, where one alleges bias against an officer, we have many officers. Your case will be transferred to another officer who will address your case without further, violation to those who report such cases. We are supposed to be seen as protectors of human rights. So that is the face that we would like to show to the public. They are protected as they appear before the office of the ombudsman. We also, as indicated, we receive cases. We have officers who we have thematic areas because we are still new in our practice of human rights. And we believe CSOs, NGOs, you have more information, you have done more in terms of human rights cases. That is why we need to collaborate with yourselves to find out, fact finding, to assess the situation of where the problems really emanate, and to also come up with recommendations which we will take forward to speak to, law reform, change of laws, to ensure that laws protect, LGBTQ groups, and to ensure any other indigenous persons or vulnerable and marginalized groups. So I believe we need to collaborate more in such respect to ensure that we come up with recommendations and ways to avoid those situations. The other question is you wanted a clearer understanding of private entities. Private entities are non-government entities. As long as they are non-government, and even persons, I believe, are taken into consideration, private persons, when we speak to private entities. And because ours is protection of human rights, promotion and protection of human rights, we only deal with cases that deal with violations of human rights, not cases that deal with it, not with any other issue. So only you refer cases to us only where there is an aspect of a violation of human rights. And harmful or hateful speech. This one is unfortunate. It happens. We have taken note, but like I'm saying, at our infancy, we haven't taken any steps to date to address harmful and hateful speeches. But we have an advisory mandate to government as the office of the Ombudsman. So we are mandated to advise government where we find that this is harmful and hateful. We are mandated to take it up with the powers that be to ensure that they correct their policies, they come up with policies that ensure that sin is not done. So we will need you more as CSOs to point us to that direction, to say, you see here, Ombudsman, this is happening. And we believe that this is the best way to address it as our collaborators and as people who are doing this from grassroots. We need more of you. And because of this, that is why now we need to come to a point where we have MOUs with your different cells, which will define the parameters within which to foster our collaboration to address these kind of cases and to see where we can meet each other halfway and to raise more awareness on such issues. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Tikanya. That was really, really informative, and I hope that a lot of questions were answered. I'm sure. I'm very cognizant of time, so I'm going to invite Lekhabibo Laonen. Please excuse me, my dogs are going
I think you went muted, Danny.
Yes,
happened?
I did go muted. Brady, could you please take over? I've got like noise rattles that are going around at the moment.
Okay, okay. We love dogs, by the way. Yeah, thank you everyone. Just to bring in Lahabibo quickly to just say some quick closing remarks, reflections, and then we can hand it over to Tekaino. Also, if you have any closing remarks before we end the webinar. Lahabibo?
Thank you, Bradley. I was excited there for a minute. I thought Daniel said something about ducks. Uh, that was exciting for me. But I think I just want to thank the Ganyo for a very comprehensive presentation and for answering our questions as well, getting into, I guess, the practicalities of how do we go about reporting. Like I mentioned in the opening remarks, the institutions are there, particularly at a national level when we speak about the Office of the Ombudsman. The institutions are there, but I know even from observation and experience that not all of us as human rights defenders, as activists, as civil society, not all of us you have the practical know-how of how to engage, particularly with the National Human Rights Institution, which for us is the Office of the Ombudsman. And therefore, I think this engagement has been critical in that regard, and even going through the questions with us uh, and giving us, I guess, practical grounding for what it looks like and what falls within the remit of the Office of the Ombudsman and what we can envision as ways to address various human rights violations. So thank you very much, Tekanya, for that. Once again, thank you also to Salk for putting this together. And I guess a very special thank you to everybody who's in attendance. And like I mentioned earlier, maybe not just mention once again in closing, that we also are working to strengthen reporting mechanisms for Lehabibo, but not just for Lehabibo, but I guess we're hoping that this is a system that replicates and is applicable to everybody who is reporting a human rights violation, at the very least within the context of Botswana, that we will be able to collect this data and use it towards future programming and reporting, and also to build case for both policy and legal reform. And once again, I'd like to invite you to just to log on to habibo.org.bw website. There will be a blue icon in the corner written help and support. You can just click that to interact with our Mukosi chatbot, which is the new human rights reporting mechanism that we are launching. It is still in beta testing, so we appreciate if you can just go through it and lodge a case, just as a test kit, as a test case. So maybe you can also, while you're doing that, maybe you'll see some things that we might have missed that could better improve the functionality of the chatbot. It will also be available on WhatsApp. We're hoping that we'll complete integration today, so it should be available on WhatsApp by the close of the week at the very least. At the risk of blabbing on forever, I think I'm going to stop here after saying once again, thank you to everybody.
Thank you, Laone. And I think that's a very great initiative also from Lahabibo, and to also ensure that there's more avenues that communities, individuals can report various types of human rights violations. And I'm sure this is not only for the LGBTIQ community, but everyone else as well. TK, any last words from you and the Office of the Ombud?
Thank you, Bradley. I'm so grateful that we had this engagement today, and really, I want this to be the start of many. You are welcome to invite us every time you have this kind of engagement, because we would like to know more about what is really out there on the ground. and to hear those recommendations of how to better our services. As I indicated, we would like to have those MOUs, with different CSOs. At the moment, we have embarked on covering thematic areas, human rights thematic areas, that is vulnerable and marginalized groups. That is the first thematic area, which covers LGBTQ, covers prisoners and persons in state custody, refugees and asylum seekers, as well as indigenous persons. These are so any CSOs who are operating under these, kindly contact the Ombudsman. We also have those that deal with women's rights, equality, and non-discrimination, socioeconomic rights, that is business and human rights, right to a clean and healthy environment, as well as persons living with disabilities and children's rights. So all of those CSOs, NGOs, you are very much welcome to approach the Office of the Ombudsman and, find how we can best collaborate to bring our causes forward. One voice, if we can bring this with one voice, I believe we can be heard better, we can advance faster. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, TK. Thank you very much to Habibo, to Black Queer Dogs, to everyone else who participated in this conversation. And I'm sure, TK, that call for collaboration with CSOs on the various thematic areas will come forward as well. So yeah, I think after this, we'll also just share report, resources, and also more context or rather for the Office of the Ombudsman, the chatbot, Khosi, with everyone who was on this webinar. Otherwise, thank you everyone and have a beautiful afternoon.
Oh, sorry, Brent. Also, I will add.
Sorry,
I will
go
add
ahead, TK.
our contacts. I will share with my. Sorry.
No, I was saying you can go ahead. Sorry.
I'll share our contacts with my Chalmers. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so
okay.
much.
I will share. Yes, I will share so that she forwards to you for further, sharing.
Yes, perfect. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Talaye kanai telele kupam pulele di khoro kikene ay sedi la cam pone sete ki ponele kamata ay akibona chance ya pop akibona chance ya pop.
The recording has stopped.